Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 182 of the Citrix Session. I'm your host for today, Bill Sutton. I have with me a couple of folks from Citrix, Geremy Meyers and Todd Smith. Geremy, it's been a while since you've been with us. You want to just introduce yourself to the crowd?
Sure, Bill. I'm Geremy Meyers, longtime caller, longtime listener. Been on a few times. I've been on a few of these. And it's good to see you again. I've been out for a little bit actually. Did a little vacation. Todd, I was up in your neck of the woods. Went to Boston last week, so we had a good time
Were you
doing
at
all
the
the.
Coldplay concert?
I was at the Coldplay concert. I did get to witness firsthand the incident. We won't go into it, but we'll just call it the incident. At this point, if you don't know what we're talking about, then clearly you have not been on the internet. But yeah, I got to see that firsthand.
Nice.
It was it
Interesting.
was there was a there was a chuckle for sure because it was more of a hey, that can't it would be funny if that was true, and as it turned out it was.
Yeah, interesting. Todd, you want to say hello?
Sure. So, hey guys, my name is Todd Smith. Glad to be joining you guys all today. Bill, we're getting closer and closer to episode 200.
We are. I think I mentioned to you last week. I don't know that we're going to make it, but if we don't make it by the end of 25, it'll be very early in 26 when we hit it. When we hit it.
Across it. Yep.
Yeah, but we will get there. I know we will, and we may get there quicker than I think because we found another area for content, which I will talk about briefly here. So historically, for our listeners, gosh, sorry about that. We've always focused on the Citrix blog site, which is citrix.com/blogs. And that's, I think, wouldn't you guys say, kind of more marketing, not really marketing, but somewhat technical, but really more focused on architecture probably than anything.
You know what? That's probably pretty fair. Also fair would be, listen, it's blogs.citrix.com. I think this has been our jumping off point
That's right.
for a long time, right? And it's been interesting to see the blog site sort of change over the years.
Mhm.
Um, but I think we have, uncovered is not the right word because the
Yeah, it's
tech
always been here,
zone
right? Yeah.
has been here for a while. Like we've had tech zone for years. I don't know that we socialize the tech zone blogs, but listen, there's a lot of good content here. In fact, I think we've consolidated a few things into it's just community.citrix.com. And tech zone has been one of those areas, and it's got a specific blog, link as well that's worth looking into. So maybe where we're trying to go with this conversation is we're going to expand our blog resources to potentially the blogs.citrix main site as well as the tech zone blogs,
Yeah.
which tend to be a little bit meatier, right? So a little bit more technical focused, how
Mhm.
to in certain cases with certain articles, but there's some good stuff we'll cover today.
Yep. And to that end, what we're going to cover today is a Tech Zone blog entitled Optimizing Windows 365 Investments, Simplifying Flexibility for Enterprise Success. This is by Thomas. Is it Berger or is it Berger?
Burger.
It's
Burger.
Burger. It's Burger. Yeah, he's one of the OGs, man. He's been around for a while. A lot of good
Yeah, he
stuff.
has. I met him at I think he taught one of those labs, hands-on labs or something years ago at a Synergy that I happened
Hmm.
to be in. So I have met him, but he wouldn't know me from Adam, but nevertheless. So this blog article really is reflecting on some of the benefits, and I'm paraphrasing here. Obviously, we'll go into a lot more detail of leveraging your Citrix entitlements for Windows 365, providing choice, and enabling customers to really have a mix and match, whether they're dealing with published applications or a cloud PC or shared desktops or what have you. So this goes into a little bit of detail on some of the thought process you may want to go through when you're determining which direction you want to go. So Geremy, you want to give kind of a general overview here of this?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think we've covered Windows 365 as a technology in some previous podcasts we've done, but I think the focus of this one's a little bit different in that it really kind of gets into the nuts of exactly how do you leverage this, right? Like, why is it flexible? How's it flexible? From an enterprise perspective, just thinking through how enterprise IT deploys technology. Um, it works a little bit different than what we see on a marketing slide, right? So most customers don't go from this is how I'm doing it today to cutover date, I'm
Right.
doing something entirely different, right? So in this case, so just to give you an example, listen, I got several customers who are exploring how to leverage Windows 365. And a marketing slide might tell you, oh, by the way, you can go from I'm doing it this way with Citrix, even, just on-prem apps, on-prem desktops, managing it with on-prem Citrix to, I've got a cutover date in 2 months where everything is going, every desktop, every user will be using Windows 365 desktop. And that's just not how IT works, right? So two things. One, it's tends to be we're going to move a user group over, we're going to move this over, we're going to do some very strategic tactical moves. And in a lot of cases, you've got a very distributed sort of environment. And the idea is, honestly, this is where Citrix shines. The idea that, to help manage sort of a move like that, how do you do it to where it becomes transparent to the end user? So that's probably this in a nutshell. So we're going to talk through some of those different things to consider, so some of the different deployment models, because there's not a one size fits all approach when you look at any technology. And I think that's what we're kind of getting to here with Windows 365. How do you make it flexible in an enterprise deployment?
Yeah, and I think one of the takeaways here of this article, and I don't want to jump to the end here, but is that to your point, this isn't really about how to go all in with Win 365. It's about how you use the tools you have to address the personas or use cases that are appropriate for your business, and assessing that and putting forth your design of how you're going to get to that is an important part of the process, obviously. Todd, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I think there's been a challenge for the past several years when we've talked about flexibility and agility and merge that in with the fact that we've got basically one license that kind of covers all of the different use cases. We haven't been really prescriptive about how to use that single license to be able to go and satisfy all of these different use cases easily, right? So oftentimes we got pulled into conversations where, hey, if we just want a virtual desktop, we can use some feature, and it oftentimes creates a little bit of confusion within the customer base that it isn't just a single purpose-built solution that you have to buy specific for that. It's kind of, hey, we can use this license to do a published application. We can do a virtualized application. We can do a virtualized desktop, a shared hosted desktop, a variety of different things. The delivery mechanism can be anything you want, but you're leveraging that same license, right? It's an agility and flexibility concern that a lot of organizations get kind of caught up in. And you almost need to go through a systematic review of what are we trying to do? What are the constraints that we have? And what are the different options we have to deliver based on those requirements?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the middle of this article, there's a little graphic that shows on one side like customizable and an arrow pointing to standardize and reflects the concept of right sizing, and Citrix makes it possible. I will admit to not really fully understanding this. Do you guys, if one of you guys does, can you walk us through it?
Yeah, so I think where we're trying to land with this graphic, Bill, is simply, unless you are I'm gonna put just a made up number here, right? Unless you're an organization that has maybe less than 500, end users, there's a very good chance you're going to have a mix of what you're delivering to your user population. Now, I'm not saying that anyone below 500 users is not seeing that. I'm just telling you that as you start to get to the enterprise level, enterprise size organization, and I don't mean just Fortune 500s, but, more often than not, you're going to have different user populations within your user base, and they're going to have different requirements. So on the one hand, you've got office workers that you can give a very standardized desktop to, right? And so that might represent a big portion of what you got for sure. But then listen, you might have developers, you might have finance people, you might have different kinds of users that need something a bit more customizable, something where you need to open up their ability to maybe to install applications or just have a different application set. Next level, you might have a mix of on-prem and cloud-based resource. So for instance, you might have a super important critical application where the application infrastructure, not the Citrix piece, but like the actual back-end SQL databases and front ends and things like that, actually might sit on-prem, right? So you might be running SAP on-prem right now in a data center. We have a lot of customers doing that. So you have workloads that need to connect to that. And of course, Bill, what's the golden rule between, with EUC? It's keep the desktop, keep the front end application close to the back end infrastructure. You're going to have some performance issues.
Yeah.
On the flip side, you might have some transactional seasonal workers where maybe it makes sense to spin up a desktop in a cloud, something where you don't want to buy on-prem resources. You've got desktops that sit in the cloud. And so you might have a user population specifically for that. You might have customers who need users who need a full desktop, for instance. Maybe they're loan origination. We've got a few of those, right? Where they have 2 or 3 different apps open at the same time and they need to copy and paste and do some things in between them. Or it might be one single line of business app that you need to get out. So you might have a mix of that. And of course, not everyone's Windows these days, right? So I have customers who are 75% Windows, but now they have a bucket of Mac users. And oh, by the way, they're doing some AI things with Linux, and they have some developers that might need a different OS as well. So you've got this mix of different user personas that you have to account for. And as you get larger, I'll say 500, maybe it's 250. I think that number varies, but a lot of it depends on your organizational requirements. How do you pull all that stuff together? And I think where this article lands is Windows 365 is probably just one component of that strategy. It might address one user group, unless you are 100% in Azure with a dedicated desktop for everyone. You might not be using Windows 365 for everyone. You might have a mix, and I think that's where we're trying to land with this. Is it's probably a blended approach.
Well, it's like power users and developers are going to have one type of, even in Windows 365, they're going to have one type of desktop. Other users might have a different type of desktop. But what this chart really, in my mind, just to really dumb it down, I guess is the easiest way for me to do it, is in the past we had a hammer and a nail. Now we've got this really built out toolbox with all these options to fit the appropriate use case. And Windows 365 is a great solution, but it's probably not the right solution for it isn't the right solution for every use case. But leveraging Citrix, we can address pretty much all of these use cases using the technology that Citrix provides, whether that's enabling connectivity to a Win365 desktop. And yes, you can do that through Citrix. I do it every day. That's what I'm doing right now, is I'm running a Windows 365 desktop via Citrix, and everything's accelerated with HDX. And I use it every day. I love it. It's performant. It does the job for me. So but that's not the case for everyone, right, Todd?
Yeah, I think the critical thing here is this is, it's no longer a binary question and answer. It's much more of a dimmer switch, right? Where you can say, 80% of my users can run a standardized desktop that's running traditionally in the cloud, that's got a subset of published applications that are on a variety of different OSs, right? You can mix and match those requirements as needed without saying, well, I only deliver Windows desktops with the following core set of applications that you can't customize, and they're all going to be on-prem, right? Those days are over where you're forcing customers and forcing your users down a specific delivery model. What we've also done, and this is kind of where it gets very interesting, is around the different types of solutions that can be delivered for this, right? And I think this is where the next graphic really kind of gets into talking about, hey, we've got Linux, we've got Mac OS. You can connect back to physical hardware with a remote PC option. You can do single session windows or multi-session windows. And then also being able to say, okay, for single session windows, do I want to have it be persistent, which basically is giving the person a full blown, you go back to your exact settings where you left off when you reboot the machine? Or do I want to have a non-persistent desktop, which is the equivalent of getting you shake the etch sketch to get your session reset, and then you start your day with a clean desktop.
Yeah, absolutely. And that graphic that Todd was referring to is in the middle of the article.
Yeah.
And reflects the various elements of machine catalogs supporting these various use cases. So like a multi-session Windows machine or a single session Mac using the Mac connector or remote PC, like Todd said,
Yeah.
and so forth. And it doesn't call it out here, but persistent Windows session could be a cloud PC in the same way. So the last section of the article shows a picture of the Citrix Workspace, the Workspace app page after you log in with all the icons on it, and reflects the fact that we can leverage that Workspace really to access any app or desktop that we need that's published to us based on our persona. And again, like we've been talking about, Cloud PC is one of these, which is kind of how I work personally these days. Any thoughts on this, Geremy?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd like to talk about both of these actually. So the one, interestingly enough, I have not seen the admin console version of this view in a while. I've talked a lot about the user side of this as well. So the one that looks like Workspace app is fantastic because at the end of the day, users don't care where any of the stuff sits, right? They just want to click an icon for an app or a desktop and just have it launch, right? So, what we've done here, we've kind of called it out, but listen, we can have all of these resources, the desktops, the individual applications. The one thing that this article does not cover, but it's just something to be aware of is, listen, what if you're not doing any of that and you're just publishing SaaS applications, right? I can pull that up and launch that as well. So that's also an option if that's part of your strategy of, I'm not going to give anyone any virtual thing. We're just going to, SSO them right into Workday, for instance, right? But that user experience is important because it abstracts everything. I'm just a user clicking an icon. Now it could be Windows 365. So I think that's what we tried to point out here as well is we can bubble that resource up. You click it, off you go. You're actually using an HDX instead of an RDP connection, right? So we've improved the user experience. If you've got any policies, we can lay that on as well. So this would be in addition to anything from a cloud PC perspective. But if you're used to leveraging, certain Citrix policies to manage the on-prem desktop, the cloud desktop, you can layer those onto Windows 365 as well. But that's the user view. The admin view is, man, it's just another machine catalog, different type. That's it. Used to be all Windows. Now we've got remote PC. In fact, we have some very large remote PC deployments. I feel like our law firm friends have leveraged the heck out of remote PC. But it's a mix of Mac OS and Linux as well these days. So both of those technologies are actually the Linux one been around for a long time actually. Mac OS is fairly fresh actually, but I would say argue between the last year and a half or so, 2 years, we've added Mac OS support. But you're just managing it from a admin workflow from that same console. You're managing everything else. Hadn't changed. Some of your options are different, but that's workload specific.
Yep. All right. Any other thoughts on this? We're at the end of the article. I do have a couple of other things I want to point out. Any other thoughts here, Todd or Geremy?
I mean, the punchline, and maybe I'm stealing your thunder if this is
Quite
one of
all
your thunders is, oh, by the way, if you do want to integrate Windows 365 in, regardless of what your license count is today, we'll provide the ability to do an unlimited number of Windows 365 connections. So you got 11 billion licenses of that, tie it right in, we'll support you for 11 billion.
How many is that, Geremy?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Okay. It's unlimited.
Making sure. Yeah, it's fine to steal my thunder, but yeah, I was going to say that what it says here at the end is the Windows 365 entitlement for current Citrix customers, and you can have as many, like Geremy said, as many Windows 365 PCs, cloud PCs delivered through Citrix as you want. In addition to all the other goodness you've got around different other types of applications, and again, these the end user view is driven largely by who you are and what groups you're in. So it can be as granular as it needs to be for the business. Todd, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think the big thing here is that, even if you're going down a Windows 365 journey, there are some benefits of continuing to leverage Citrix and some of the Citrix technologies to enhance and optimize that. So if you look at the optimization pack that we have for Windows 365, it's included in your Citrix licenses. Like Geremy said, you can use 11 billion licenses or instances of this off of your Citrix licenses. Work with your partners like XenTegra and your Citrix account team to really kind of figure out what is the best way to get access to all of these capabilities and all these features. Windows 365 by itself is a good experience. Leveraging Citrix on top of it makes it a great experience.
Yeah, I would agree with that, for sure, Todd. Like I said, I've been using it for about 2 months now, and short of a one or two hiccups that I think were maybe my own fault or just the nature of the Windows operating system, but very minor and easily recoverable. I've had almost no problems. Teams meetings, Zoom meetings work just fine with the HDX layer running inside of it. So it's definitely something to consider. But like you said, most customers are going to want a mix, are going to need a mix. Because a lot of folks have SaaS applications these days, but they may still have a requirement for a full desktop and or both. So there's lots of value in leveraging Citrix for the whole delivery mechanism for your use cases. Final thoughts?
So we used to have a word for this, Bill. Do you remember what that word was? We used to be on all the. It was FlexCast. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
All right, gentlemen. Anything else?
No, I think we're this is a good article. I love the series of blogs that we have in TechZone. Like we talked about earlier, they tend to be a little bit more technical focused. So we'll sort of pick and choose across the board here. But what I do like about the blogs is they do the TechZone blogs in particular, they make it a little bit easier to sort of pick and choose the topic that you want to pick as well. So for instance, we went down the path of app and desktop virtualization. So we see all the blogs that were associated there, but there's NetScaler and Unicon and some of our newer technologies as well. But don't be deceived. There are lots of resources in the community site, the TechZone site in general. So I had someone reach out about how to stand up some Uber agent last week, and as it turns out, we have a POC guide for how to roll that out. So it's step-by-step screenshots. It's really good stuff. So make sure you check that out. Just community.citrix.com/TechZone-blogs. But I think you get there just with.
You just go to community.com and the root. So yeah.
There you go.
While we're talking about the TechZone, it's not just the blogs. Right. There's a ton of resources out there. There's community discussion forums for both the Citrix side as well as the NetScaler capabilities. And more importantly, there's some resources up here. So if you really need to geek out and get some Visio stencils and architectural diagrams and architectural capabilities where you need to include those in some type of either presentation or kind of just a reference architecture, TechZone is the place to go.
Yep, good to know. Great to know. All right,
folks. Check that out. There's the VDI handbook, Todd. I have not seen that in a while. Looks like it's based on 2402, but man, that is the Bible. It follows a bit of the model of Citrix Consulting as well. So it's some good stuff there.
Oh yeah, I remember when that was a big PDF.
A monster PDF is what it was. Yeah.
Sure. So, all right, gentlemen, thanks for your time today. And to our audience, we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.